Welcome, everyone, to the Fierce Entrepreneur Summit. I'm going to just say right out of the gate, I'm a hot mess, and this is going to be a hot mess express. We might as well just be honest about it. So much has happened, and we are doing our best with some technology issues that we've been having today. So I just want to say that out loud. If you guys came for a perfect summit, I hate to disappoint you, but right out of the gate, I'm going to tell you we're messy because we believe in progress and showing up to make an impact and show what's possible. So, Adam, I'm going to introduce you really quick before we do the official intros, but Adam is my amazing MC and co-host or co-MC, that's what it is, co-MC for this amazing event. He is a media personality. He is an interview king. And y'all, he knows every celebrity and every star on the planet. So you better watch yourselves. You never know. You might get an invite from Adam to do an interview. So, Adam, thank you for being here and helping me with my Hot Mess Express.
You are very welcome, Kim. It is my pleasure to be here. I'm very excited for tonight's summit. And if it's okay with you, I would love to do a quick introduction of you.
Hot Mess Express was enough, Adam.
I think we need one more quick thing.
Okay.
All right. So I would be more than honored to introduce to you the founder and fierce leader of the My Sexy Business community and team, Kim White. Kim can show you how you can have a business that you own and doesn't own you. And we are so excited for tonight's summit. So Kim, welcome. And thank you for having this summit again for all of us. We are very, very grateful to you for this space.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for all you said. And we want to say out loud, this is a great space for everyone to practice. This is a masterminder event where everybody gets to come and share their thoughts, but I want you, the listener, to be paying attention to these incredible humans, because if you don't know them already, you're missing out. You really want to get to know them. They have so much to say, so much to share. I hope you're inspired, motivated, and encouraged if you're thinking of being an entrepreneur. If you already are an entrepreneur, we know how hard it can be to own a business. So you are in good company tonight, and we are so glad you joined us. Adam, can you roll the intros? We're doing this a little different this time. We actually have some official intros. Y'all just don't laugh at the technology part. We did our best.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Donna Bender is a certified Givologist branded product specialist, corporate marketing trainer, creator of The Giving Plan, show host, published author, and GME roving reporter.
Here we go.
Denise Millay, a findability queen, tech simplifier, game show host, published author, website builder, founder of M Media Group and GME roving reporter.
Here we go.
Linda Bonney is a published author, conversationalist, writer, storyteller, podcast host, production manager, and GME roving reporter.
Here we go.
The freaking fabulous Kat Corchado, proud US Air Force veteran, health and wellness professional, founder of Small Space Pilates, podcast host, published author, and GME roving reporter.
Here we go.
Yvonne Marchese, age agitator, podcast host, community builder, branding photographer, published author, event speaker, and GME roving reporter.
Here we go.
Jill Olish is the founder of Mama Outspoken, executive team leader, postpartum awareness advocate, vision board party host, event coordinator, podcast host, GME associate producer, and roving reporter.
Here we go.
Carrie Zarb is a rock star podcaster, brilliant entrepreneur, director of Zinc Business Solutions, cover girl, mastermind leader, and GME roving reporter.
Let me introduce you to Carrie Zarb, the money barista.
Here we go.
Adam Rothenberg is a media personality, interview king, clubhouse manager, published author, event coordinator, red carpet correspondent, GME associate producer, and roving reporter.
Here we go.
We may be coming in messy and hot, but y'all, we're going to have a good time tonight. And if you want something super serious, we're not it. We are fun around here. We believe in serious results wrapped in fun, as Carrie would say. And tonight we have to say, Adam, that we've got to frame this a little bit because there's going to be some leaders of a roundtable discussion. Let's just let everybody know that. But it's going to be whatever is on their minds. The theme is connections, making new connections. And we want to introduce the leaders, and we want to speak about one of the leaders who couldn't join us tonight because she's out with her cape on saving the world, and that's Carrie. So Carrie Zarb, I am filling in for Carrie tonight instead of staying in the green room and just emceeing. But Adam, I also would love for you to join the roundtable too, so that we get this party started. So let's introduce the leaders. Oh wait, that's me and Kat. So we need to do that, Adam, and then bring everybody up.
All right. Well, let me introduce to you the leaders of the first roundtable discussion are going to be Kim White and the freaking fabulous Kat Corchado, who is the owner of Small Space Pilates, and Kat feels everybody should have the right to feel good in their own body. So we are so excited to get things kicked off. So let me bring up Kat right now, and then we'll bring everybody else up. Is that how we're doing this?
I think so, Adam.
All right. Well, that is how it's going. So Kat should be, it says Kat's up here, but I don't see her.
I don't see Kat either.
Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Here we
I'm
go.
here. I'm right over here.
I love it. Love it. Love it.
All right. So now should we bring up all the roundtable guests?
I think so. And Adam, we're going to use a layout that Jillo made us earlier, and we're going to see what happens when we do it.
Okay.
If it doesn't work out, I'm going to be pushing in more buttons behind the scene. But I'm going to just say we're going to this mode. And then if you'll bring everybody up, we're going to see what this looks like for our roundtable discussion.
Yes.
Hello, hello. Wait, okay, it's not a good look, Jill.
There were going to be 8 of us tonight, and we're missing a few. So,
Okay, so we're gonna go to a different look, and then we're gonna go to Best Adam. There we go.
there we go.
And then I'm gonna try to remedy that. So
Oh my.
welcome y'all to the Hot Mess Express. I will be your engineer tonight. I will just say I am driving this train with Adam. Adam, thank you for putting up with all you do. Jill, for everything you put up with before we got here tonight. And welcome to the Fierce Entrepreneur Summit, y'all.
It is
So
great to
exciting.
be here. I just want to say that I am inspired so far because here you are making it happen, walking through, letting the messy be seen, and still doing it. And yay, kudos to that. That's all I want to say, first of all.
Thank you, Yvonne.
You know, I say messy is beautiful.
Yes, we have that in common, Yvonne.
I know.
Well, I think it's also a good thing that people see that it's messy, but we're still doing it.
That's
Because we're
right.
humans. We're humaning very well at it.
Our hair may not be laying like it's supposed to, but we're here and we're doing it. You're right, Kat. I'm just like, oh my gosh. It was either finish the halftime show or fix the hair. So I chose the halftime show, y'all. You want to stick around because it's going to be very exciting. Want to say that. So, Kat, do you have the first question to kick us off, or do you want me to ask the first question? And then I know this group will go rogue. We won't have to worry about another question after that.
I have a question. I don't know if it's the question.
I love it. I love it. Does it have to do with connections, Kat?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
See, you came prepared. I'm going to just say, take it away, Kat. I don't know which direction you are actually from me, so whichever way you are.
Well, thank you, Kim. So the first question is, what does connection mean to you?
Ooh, love that question.
That is a great question, Kat.
I
Can
love
I
it,
jump
right?
in? I love it. Can I jump in with an
Absolutely.
answer?
Go
So
ahead.
connections to me means connecting to people, connecting to other entrepreneurs, and it also means connecting to my business, connecting to myself to make sure I'm understanding everything that I need to do on the back end to be able to connect with other people and to make sure everything that I'm putting out there leads somebody somewhere and they don't click a button on my entertainment platform and get sent to Lottie Dottie, everybody in Lottie Dottie's page instead of somewhere on my site. So that is what connections means to me.
Kat
That's
knows
interesting,
Lottie
Adam.
Dottie.
I know Lottie Dottie. Well, it's, I find it interesting that, I thought connections before I was an entrepreneur, that connection was just about people. And now I'm understanding as an entrepreneur that connections can mean a lot of other things. Go ahead, Jill.
We were chatting about this in the red carpet before the show, and well, just in general. But Adam, you said the same thing, Lottie Dottie, and I'm just like, every time you say it, I kind of giggle.
It is my favorite expression. Ever since Kat said it, it has become my favorite expression in the world. I use it on a daily basis.
I think we need to speak it in as often as we can tonight.
So we can just giggle like little kids every time we say it.
So I'm gonna clarify for everyone watching, because I have been to places where I've not been privy to a private joke, and I don't want anybody out there to think that we're telling things that they don't understand. So one show of Good Morning Entrepreneurs, Kat was hosting, and she was talking about that she didn't want to invite everyone to a soiree she was having. She didn't want to invite everybody in Lottie Dottie. And we have all been saying it and copying what she said for the rest of the time. So Kat, that'll go down in history as it's yours. It's your comment, but we all say it.
I love it. I love it. Yvonne or Donna, any thoughts on what that means to you?
Lottie Dottie. It'll be like, just, it has to fit into every sentence. So yes, we did chat about this earlier. And my whole thing about connections is the fact that it is very much of who I am and the whole premise about building relationships, because from a people-y point of view, connections and relationships are really the foundation of a business. And without those connections, I mean, I use myself as an example. That's how I grew my business. And one thing that I wanted to add last time, so I'm glad we had the opportunity to talk about it, is the fact that connections are also could be referrals. You know, it's because when you're out and about and you're meeting people for the first time, and you know, you're trying to help. I love to help people. I love connecting people. And if I can't use someone's product or service, I always say, surely I must know somebody that can. And so my mental Rolodex will go off and I will try to connect them. And to me, that's just it. It's like this. It just morphs into this wonderful way of doing business. And I think that connections are extremely important to succeed in business. So that's what I
I
got.
love that answer, Donna. Yvonne?
Well, one of the things that that came out of my mouth in the pre-red carpet talk about this was this idea of connecting ideas. That's something that I really enjoy about what I do. And what I do, so let me just be clear. So I'm a photographer and I'm a podcast host. And prior to that, I was an actress, a theater actress. And so it's all storytelling related. And I didn't realize that storytelling was the thing that connected everything for me until after I started the podcast. And I knew that storytelling was going to be fundamental to the conversations that I was having with people on the podcast. I wanted to tell their story, their personal story, their experience of coming up against something in midlife and having to work through a problem and coming out the other side in order to make in order to inspire other people to know that they could also get through the hard things, And so for me, connections is very much about connecting ideas to my listeners. In photography, it's about connecting with the person on the other side of the camera so that their photo then connects to the person that they're looking at. And that connection all comes through and it's circular, So, yeah.
I think that connecting can be super simple. I mean, if you've ever been in the supermarket and someone has a great shirt on or a pair of shoes and you go, oh my gosh, I love those. Is that a connection? And then you start talking. Have you ever done that? Just start talking to people. And my husband, I've done this with people and, someone says something, I say something, we laugh and giggle and we keep talking. And my husband would say, why didn't you introduce me to your friend? And I said, I don't know that woman. Because you were talking like best friends. I said, she said something, I said something, we started laughing. So I think connection is very organic and it either is a connection or it's not.
That's so funny, Kat. My mom does the same thing when she's out and about, always finding someone either that she knows or that she can just really connect with easily. And Yvonne, when you were talking, it really reminded me a lot of what Kim has always done, especially in the Clubhouse early days in making connections. And this is always what the word connection brings me back to, and how Kim was always doing behind the scenes introductions and always in someone else's DMs being like, you really need to get to know this person. Go talk to them or follow them here. Like, I have this person for you. And I think that is a special gift that a lot of people do have. I I don't have that practiced enough yet, I don't think, but I am lucky enough to be around so many of you guys that do make those connections. Donna, between your experience in networking and how good you are and experienced at that, I've networked before. I am so shy, and my husband thinks I'm fantastic at networking, but that's only because I have to be good at it to do it in practice, I pretend, but it is genuine at the same time, but it's a struggle for me. Whereas then Yvonne and Kim and Kat, like, you guys really have it going. And then Adam, you have a stage presence that brings that naturally to you. So it's really inspiring to be around you all in seeing how you guys make connections and where you're seeing that reminds me you need to connect with this person. So I think I'm more along the lines on the business side and where things connect in like mapping things out. Well, where is that journey going? Then like pulling that out in a conversation. So it's really cool how we can all work together and find those spots.
Sometimes it's just a simple. Oh, go ahead, Yvonne.
No, I just wanted to tell Jill, I didn't always know how much I love connecting people. It has been something that has developed within me as I've gone along, and it has only really come out since I started my podcast. I would say is really when I started to notice how much joy I got out of connecting one podcast guest to somebody else, or I just had this guest on, you should talk to them too, or different things like that. It has been something that I've leaned into only recently, and I think I always enjoyed it, but I didn't know that about myself. And you are definitely a master of seeing those connections, those system connections of getting things done. And so I admire that about you, and that's where I struggle.
We all want to be Pillow when we grow up.
Right.
Don't even start with me on that one.
I was just gonna say the same thing, Donna. I think I always say, how do I get a Jill in my business?
Seriously.
All of us want a Jill.
Yep. Yeah. So you should feel good, Jill, that you have skills that we all want. Seriously.
You guys all have wisdom that I want. So yes, I think there's 5 other people on the stage that I'm like, I'd like to grow up to be just like them.
Yeah. But I look at the future and I see what you're going to be like. And that's awe. I'm in awe of that. So
yes.
The one thing I wanted to just add about connections is that when you said you didn't realize, Yvonne, that you didn't know you were good at it until you started doing your podcast. I didn't know I was good at that until I moved to Dallas and I had to start a business not knowing anybody. And so I was forced into that whole environment because it really is such a distinction of living in New York City and not having to network, and you go in an elevator and you don't talk to anybody in the elevator in New York. You go into the office building, you don't talk to anybody, and and you don't realize it until you are in an environment where it's like, hi, how are you? It's like, especially here in Dallas, people would put their arm around you and take you under their wing and want to introduce you to people. It's such a different world, which I really obviously love and took like a duck to water, as the expression goes. I mean, it's much more enjoyable doing that than being in an elevator and not looking at anybody. So
I will say, you're just reminding me, Donna, of when I first moved to New York City as an actor when I was in my mid-20s, and I didn't know a soul. I knew one person. He was a playwright whose plays I had done when I was living in Denver. What really was fortunate for me is that fairly early on, I found a theater company that I worked with on a regular basis. And it was an ensemble, and they produced the shows, but they had a stable of actors to pull from each of those shows. So working with those people on a consistent basis is very much like being in this mastermind. I'm just now realizing. And I had the same good fortune when I was in Denver, a very similar setup, working with an ensemble theater company so that we were rotating in and out of shows all the time, with the same group of people. And how fortunate was I that was my experience, because New York could have been a really lonely place, but there was a place to belong that was there, and that was incredible.
And Yvonne, you did also mention on the red carpet that you are a connector. You said something similar, like you feel like you love being a connector, and you didn't realize how much of a connector you are. So we're lucky that we have you here with your power of connection. Not only are you the age agitator, but you are also the connector.
Watch out, everybody. I'm gonna age agitate.
That's funny. I love the way you said that, Adam. I think we're all connectors, just in our own different way, and realizing that, connecting is as simple as, going up to somebody. So what I mean by that is when my dad was in the military, I was a military brat, and moving all the time, you had to learn how to connect with people, how to meet them where they are and make them feel at ease. And can I just say real quick that April is the month of the military child, and April 15th is Purple Up for the military child. I just wanted to throw that in there.
Is that why purple is your favorite color?
No, but it helps. So I just wanted to throw that in there. I hope you don't mind.
I love that. I love knowing that. Do you know is there a short story for what the background is for April 15th being for the military child?
Well, it's the whole month of April.
It's the whole month. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's a whole month. But when we think of military, we think of the military members, but we forget about the military spouses and what the whole family goes through when one member of the family is in the military. And so, we want to support not only the military spouses, but also the kids. They go through a lot, moving all the time, making different friends at different places, being in foreign countries that they're not familiar with. So I think it's great to celebrate all aspects of the military family. I'm sorry, did I just go rogue? Didn't realize.
No, this was that. It made me think of Saved by the Bell when AC Slater would talk about how Bayside, when he got to Bayside, he finally felt like he found his home, because he was a military brat moving around with his dad from base to base. And when in the episode where he was going to get, when his dad was going to move again, he begged his dad, and it all worked out that he stayed at Bayside, and the show could continue as it was with him there. But your story just made me think of that, was, when you find a place, then it does make it hard to move. And then it's like sounds like you're constantly starting over every single time.
It can be difficult, but I'm here to say that the one thing that I think about all the time is that I saw things as a kid that most kids only read about in books or saw on TV. So, there's pros and cons to it. So thank you for that, Adam. Do we have another question?
I have a question that I just thought of. Do you feel like, because in talking about moving from base to base and starting over, having to make new connections, I do feel like that's very similar to entrepreneurship, in that a lot of times we have to consistently start over when we're trying something new in our business, or we're trying to find new clients. We always have to reach out. I mean, for example, most times when I want to get an interview, I constantly have to reach out to the person's press agent or their manager. And it's a constant let me introduce myself to you. Let me tell you who I am. Does everyone else here feel that way, that entrepreneurship is a constant starting over?
I will jump in on this because yes, absolutely. And I also moved a lot as a child, all within the same city, very strangely. But between fifth grade and high school, I changed schools every year. And so I was the new kid every year in between those grades. And it did teach me how to make friends quickly, how to very similar experience to you, Kat, in that way, without the international fun travel of it all, without that aspect of it. And I will say that my background as an actor has also prepared me well for that aspect of entrepreneurship, Adam. It because your job as an actor is auditioning and getting the audition in the first place and seeking, looking through, back in the day before everything was online, it was all in the newspaper and opening up backstage and combing through and looking for opportunities, showing up at equity open calls at 6 o'clock in the morning or earlier if you wanted to get a plum spot and make sure that you got in and out earlier during the day. So I'd go wait in line and, on 46th Street, or I think it was. And, it taught me how to hustle. And you'd stand there online with strangers, and by the end of the day, you're like, "Hey,
Best
bud."
friend.
It was great. Also doing shows, you would instantly have a family, and sometimes you would keep people from that family, and you'd make a connection with somebody that lasted beyond the show, but very often it was awesome being with you, and now we know each other and I love you, but you may not see each other and spend time together again. Just really, and it was interesting preparation for what I'm doing now, for sure. Helped me develop a thick skin to, asking for things and getting no's. And I think my skin could still be a little thicker, but it's coming.
This question, it might have been in Mastermind that we hit this topic, because I said when I was talking about in entrepreneurship, if you have a new idea about something or a different angle of your business that you want to introduce to people, I mentioned in a way, it's almost like starting from scratch again, because now you got this, you're doing what you're doing, but now you got this idea that you really want to develop. And so now you have to reach out to people. You have to put a proposal together. You have to call people. You got to get feedback. And so it's always like you're starting over again, not necessarily the whole business, but every time you want to expand your business in some direction, there's a lot of that feeling that I go through, like it's starting over, and that's the reason why I really love the topic that you guys had today on LinkedIn Live about reinventing yourself, because I can't tell you how many times I have reinvented myself in my career. And the good thing about it, though, is I'm a big proponent of you are a product of your experiences. So what you've learned from the one before, you can utilize that experience again to move you to the next phase. And that's the thing that I really love about being an entrepreneur. You have more flexibility to do that kind of thing than if you were working in corporate America. So that's what I have.
Well, I think, I'm going to use a phrase that our friend Carrie likes to use. I'm going to throw a spanner in the conversation. I've never thought of it as starting over. There are times that I can't say that I don't want to connect. I don't have the bandwidth or whatever. There are days and times when I just don't want to do it. But for the most part, I do. And even on days when I do, I have a podcast interview and I'm thinking, oh, I'm just not into this today. And then I get 10 minutes into it. I'm like, this was the best podcast ever. So I don't think of it as starting over. I think of it as an extension of everything that I do as an entrepreneur. Meeting someone for the first time or for the second time or for the fourth time. It's just an extension of what we all do as entrepreneurs.
I'm not, I agree with what you're saying. Where I was coming from, Kat, was if there's another aspect of my business that I want to pursue. So for instance, if I want to really focus in on a younger demographic that's in the workforce today, that's a whole new can of, it's not like a new ball of wax, but it's a whole other thing that there's in order to be successful at branching off into different aspects of your business, you got to do research. You got to do, you got to put it out there. And so it's not like you could call somebody up that day and go, hey, this is what I'm going to do. So can I do business with you on that? When I moved to Dallas and I went into branded products and corporate gifts, I had 20 something years worth of experience in New York. I did not call one person in New York and say to them, oh, this is what I'm doing now. It was like, well, you just came out of the fashion industry and now you're doing this. It's like I needed to build myself up. I needed to build a business before I could go back and let people.
What happened, Donna?
That's not me.
You're back.
You're back.
It's not me.
It is you. We could hear you.
I know, but it's not me. I don't have anything on. I don't know if it's coming from him.
Are you hearing something? All of a sudden, we couldn't hear you, Donna. And then, oh.
Yeah. Come back, Donna. Come back. Okay, now you're speaking on mute. You can't see us, Donna? Oh. Okay. Well, in the
I love
meantime,
technology because sometimes it just surprises you.
Well,
go ahead, Jill.
Sorry. I
No,
was
go
gonna say,
ahead.
Donna's thought process got me thinking about this too. But whenever we put something new out in our businesses, like we put out a new product or an offer or start a new podcast, like the way to get these things out, sure, there's marketing, but really it's word of mouth. So that's making connections with people. Mm-hmm. And then it's, well, this is for someone to solve a problem for them. This is my way of helping someone else. And then that's going to bring people to us. So we still have to make a connection once someone comes to us looking for more from us. And it's just this back and forth that I don't think we can sometimes grasp when we're starting out as entrepreneurs, that there's going to be a lot of relationship building with making connections.
And now that brings me to thinking of something that Kim also likes to talk about, Jill, which is not leaving people on the corner. If, not dropping them off at the corner and then just not having something, which I did. I've done it. When I hosted my summit in 2022, I didn't really have any kind of an offer available yet for people to continue a relationship with me. All I knew is that I wanted to host a summit because I had all access to all these great people who had been on my podcast, and I knew that they could offer out incredible wisdom on a summit for people that was going to give value right there. But I didn't have a next step for people to stay in touch with me afterwards. So it took me a couple of months to actually develop the Age Agitators Club and get it going. Funny enough, it's, and so then we start getting to that whole idea of all the connections of the systematic pieces, right, that link things in our business to each other. And that's a really interesting thing to try to keep up with, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Like a circle? Are you talking about everything should be circular? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
'Cause
Yes.
that's something Kim talks about all the time in Masterminds, how everything should be circular. And did I also
talk a little bit more about that, because I don't know that somebody watching right now would get what you're talking about right now, Adam. So what do you mean by circular?
Oh yeah, let's see if I can explain this as I'm still trying to understand.
We can all work
it
together to try to explain it. Maybe
We'll
give
help
it
you
your
out,
best shot.
Adam.
Okay.
We'll help you
Okay.
out.
So from my understanding is that everything that you have in your business should point back to one thing. So for example, for me, my social media posts, my digest, which is my newsletter, my podcast should all point back to my entertainment platform. That is what I mean. Everything should be circular, that everything points back to one thing that can send people to one place to find things out. That's my understanding of circular.
That's a great definition. And I think somebody like a Jill Olish, who really knows the understanding and the inner workings of the back end of how things are connected, could give us a very good explanation as well, because that's her forte. Correct, Jill?
Goodness, Donna, just call
Way
me
to
out.
call her out. Way to go. I think Donna is
Wow.
driving the bus today.
Yes.
He's coming in hot, man.
I just know that this is what you feel comfortable with.
Well, yes. Adam,
You
as
do
you
have
were
expertise here, Jill, I will say.
as you were talking about your explanation of it, the other half of it is on the system side, is making sure specifically that, like you say, your website is connected and that there are no dead ends, that if I click on your homepage, I can get to all of these other places and then back to your homepage again, that it's a complete circle, that I'm not just brought to a dead end of that. I don't know where else to click to get back to where I was, or how am I supposed to connect with you? Like, what is that endpoint and how do I get back home? So making sure that there's always this way to do a full circle, both in setting up the things that we have for a business, like Adam was saying, like what our customer journey, we'll call it, as like a overall term that someone might be able to resonate with, is how is someone going from point A of introduction to point B of having a problem solved? And is that completely, it's not a straight line, that there's going to be a journey of people coming in and out of different places and then back to you.
So I have a question about connections. Have you ever made a connection with someone? It was great, it was promising, and then your connection drops the ball. Like you keep reaching out to them and they never reach back to you. That's happened to you. How does that make you feel?
Adam, I love seeing your face just then.
Wah, wah, wah. That's how it makes me feel.
Oh my gosh. Where to start, Kat Crociato? Where to start?
Well, I think the only reason I asked that is, and I'm going back to being a military brat again, is, you know, I felt everyone should have been my friend, and we've learned in business that, you know, not everyone's your flavor, but when you make this great connection with someone, you hit it off immediately, you make, you know, let's stay in contact, blah, blah, blah. And you reach out and you reach out and you reach out, and life happens for other people. I get that. And if they, you know, if they come back to you and say, hey, you know, life is really rough right now. Okay, I get that. But when they ghost you for no reason, how does that make you feel?
Terrible, but
amazing.
But you know what it is? I just wish people would be honest and say, I'm really sorry, but X, and X is going on now. Let's reconvene in a couple of months. But to just ghost and just drop off the face of the planet, that's the part that I have a hard time I have a challenge with that with people, and it comes to a point you say, well, how often can you make yourself available? Because I believe relationships are, it takes two people to have a good relationship.
It's a two-way street.
Absolutely. It's a give and take. And there are times that you will find people like you've described, Kat, and it's so unpleasant. I will say.
It is. I do the 3 strikes you're out. Even when I have podcast guests and I'm ready and they're like, oh, I'm doing this and I can't. You get 3 times. And after 3 times, I'm not chasing you anymore. And nothing personal. I just don't have time to do that. And so it used to hurt my feelings a lot. I'm going to say it used to, because, why won't you be my friend? Do you know how freaking fabulous I am? But now it's, I get it. It's okay. I put it over here. I've got this goal of where I want to be in my business. And if maybe it felt like you were my flavor, but maybe now you're not my flavor. I don't know.
Their loss, Kat. That's all I gotta say.
Right?
That's all I gotta say. I will say that early on with my podcast, I had on some guests that after the podcast episode, I realized, oh, you know what? I don't think we really had a connection there, and that's okay. That's okay. I didn't feel like they wanted to continue it, and because I felt that way, I was like, all right, I'm moving on. The beauty of it is that I have found people who absolutely are my flavor. And there have been podcast guests that have become dear friends now, and collaborators, and people that we're making waves together. And it's a beautiful thing. So you just have to, I think, keep focusing on where you want to go and who you enjoy being with. I think the gut check is incredibly important when you're peopling, and to make sure that when you walk into a room and you can tell somebody's excited to see you, how good does that feel? We should all surround ourselves with that. That should be who we surround ourselves with.
Absolutely. And I think you have to know what it is you want in a connection, because, there are all different types of connections to masterminds, connections to groups. I've been in veteran groups before where I just felt like, I don't know who these people are. I just felt like this fifth wheel, I was just like, I don't get it. But maybe they weren't my people, but there are groups where I feel like I belong. And that's what we want as people. And as, just entrepreneurs, we want to be in a group, whether it's a mastermind or whatever group, where you feel like, yay, they're happy to see me here. Or, oh my gosh, where's Yvonne? Is she okay? You want somebody to feel that. There's a quote, and I can't quote it directly. You want to be amongst people that will speak highly of you behind your back, even when you're not in the room. And that's how I feel about you guys. So now you can't ever say anything bad about me, ever.
And why would we?
Exactly. That's a great quote, Kat. And Yvonne, I feel very similar with everybody that I feel the same way with everybody that I have interviewed over the past 15 years. I feel a kinship with everybody. And there are some people that I've done an interview and we've that's it. We've done the interview and that's it. And there's other people that have become friends of mine through the interviews. And then there's other people that, like, the only time we talk are when we do an interview together. But every time we do a new interview together, we always catch up. It's always at where we just left off. So I feel like they're like that friend that you have that you may not see very often, but when you see each other, it's as if no time has passed. and
Mhm.
it makes a difference. And then there's people where you think you'll never hear from again, and then all of a sudden they come back and say, hey, do you remember me? And it's like,
Mhm.
yes, I do, and I would love to reconnect. And I hope that too. If I'm reaching out to somebody that I've interviewed and it's been a long time, I always say, well, I hope you remember me. We did this interview together. And I mean, 9 times out of 10, thankfully, they come back and say they do remember. But I
Yeah.
feel that kinship with, like you were saying.
I do want to note that in the comments, Tina had mentioned you always have to stand in your own worth. Yeah. I mean, and it has to be something I think we have to constantly remind ourselves to stand in our worth, you know?
Mhm.
It's something that's easy to lose track of, and is something that needs to be nurtured, as well as the connections with those other people. You know, there's a couple of people that I love dearly that have been guests on my podcast and immediately knew, oh, I'm keeping you. I'm keeping you. And you know, and then life got a little crazy, and now I have but I reached out recently because of another conversation about this, and I thought, you know what, I just need to reach out to these people, and we have phone calls scheduled for tomorrow, and I'm, you know, so excited. It's nurturing the connection is, I think, very important with yourself and with other people.
I think it could be as something simple. Like, I think we had talked about this. I don't remember where, but it sounds very familiar to me. Is when I have a connection or someone has been on my podcast, or, you know, we have a phone call, and I'll just send them a text and say, this was a great conversation. I hope that we can connect again soon. Boom. Or if we've connected before, sometimes I wake up and I'm thinking about someone in particular, and I'm like, I'll just reach out to them. Hey, how are you? I was really thinking about you today. That's it. No, hey, want to do this? Hey, want to get on my podcast? Hey, this. It's just, I was thinking about you. Just wanted to say hi. Boom. And then all of a sudden I'll get a phone call or email, you know, oh, I was just thinking about you too. And I think we tend to think of connections sometimes as being heavy, whether it's in our business, whether it's the back end of, you know, our website that we can't navigate. Just realizing that, you know, it doesn't have to be heavy, I think, when we're
For
connecting.
me, mom life got in the way for sure. And Kat, it was always easy for me to keep a conversation going and to start up a new one and do the networking all before I had my son. And then I don't know what happened, but starting entrepreneurship, being a mom, my phone was always in my hand, but never in my hand at the same time. And I found myself being one of those people that opened a message and didn't respond until 2 weeks later. And I know how hurtful that can be for really nurturing good connections. But one thing is it a priority to you? And I feel that in business, we can be sidetracked by trying to get more people to connect with us, but not actually doing the connecting in a genuine way. Because is that really the priority, building a relationship, or just getting more people to in numbers then? And I think,
have a solution for that.
oh yes.
I bet you do, Donna. But it's so nice when someone does that to you. Have you ever had someone call you and say, I just wanted to say hi. I was thinking about you today. And all of a sudden you have this like half an hour, 45-minute conversation, just catching. It just feels good when someone does that for you. There's no agenda. There's no, you know, it's just people caring. I think when you care, that connection, sometimes we think of connections as just business, but connections is just meeting someone where they are right now and nurturing that. Just like you said, Jill, you know, you've got to nurture the connection, whether you want to or not. I mean, maybe you don't, and that's okay. But if you do, you know, you have to find a way to stay connected with that person. It might be something, you know, I have a person in Texas, she's another veteran. And before I became an entrepreneur, I was always listening to her live stream. She used to do Instagram lives with people, and I still do. I'm just there and I'll just say hi. And it's, she goes, "Thank you for always supporting me." And I said, "Wow, great. I just wanted to be a part of your live stream. I just wanted to be there, because it was interesting." So you never know how one small little thing that you do can mean something so much more to someone else when you're connecting.
There's an invention that exists today. It's called the telephone. And I don't know many people that use it. And that we're always texting, we're always emailing. But to call someone up on the phone and just say, "I'm thinking about you," and starting a phone conversation, I think is just a nuance that a lot of people just forget about. And to the point now, when someone has to email me something, I tell them to text me they sent me an email, because I'm not sitting at my computer reading emails all day, and I will see a text on my phone, but that's still not a phone call. But I'm just saying it's the next best thing.
No, you're right, Donna. We use the phone for everything but calling.
Yeah.
Which is why it's called a phone.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be an interesting little exercise, to see how often we can call someone on the phone. I think because of time constraints, and I think of everybody's rush. It's easier to text. It's easier to send an email than it is to have a long conversation. But
And then you have a generation that doesn't like to make phone calls at all, like me.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I would vouch for that one.
I have a funny story about that. I used to, when I was in corporate, I used to work with somebody, and she would not make phone calls. She's like, "I don't make phone calls." I would have to call. Oh, I wouldn't have to, but I chose to because she was my friend. But I would call and order her lunch for her some days because she doesn't make phone calls. And she would be like, and I didn't mind it was like a little running joke between the two of us. I didn't mind doing it, but it just made me think of that. This whole conversation just made me think of that.
You're making me think of when I was fresh out of high school, I believe. My mom had an insurance company. It was her business, and she hired me to make cold calls. Oh, so painful. So painful. But what great training was that? I had a little script. I had to follow my script because I didn't know what to say. I was like, 17 years old.
I bet that was so too bad you don't have a recording of that, Yvonne. I would love to have heard it.
Thank goodness we don't have a recording of that.
It for us, Yvonne.
Well, the only thing I can reenact for you actually at the moment is how I used to have to answer the phone at my very first job ever. I worked at, I'll just say, so somebody call me.
Ring, 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 ring.
Great American Landing Cattle Company Steak Burger, Mesa location. How can I help you?
Wow, you've got that down pat. I tend to think
it was a mouthful,
let
me say.
I think people don't like talking on the phone because of robocalls and all this other stuff. But my husband used to work with this guy who, if you get a telemarketer and they're like, "Oh, blah, blah, blah," he goes, "How are you? What do you do? Why do you do it?" He would have them on the phone for like an hour till where they hung up and they're like, "I'm not calling this guy back."
What a unique way, though, to take advantage of making connections with people. Wow.
I thought it was great. Yeah.
Do you find that your phone habits have changed? Like, for example, I feel like as a teenager and young adult, I used to love talking on the phone with my friends. Nothing more than I would love it. But then, like at this stage of my life, outside of my parents and my brother and my aunt and uncle, I don't really talk on the phone to anybody, that many people, and I don't call that many people anymore. I'd rather just send an email or a text message. It's like and maybe it's because of the interviews I do, because I always feel like I'm on the phone. Even if I'm on Zoom, I feel like it's on the phone, and so I don't maybe see the phone as a recreational tool anymore, as opposed to it's a work related thing. And that's why I'd rather just send me a text or just send me an email. But it does, I mean, I agree with you, Don. I don't know that you can create the same kind of relationship, but I definitely am not, I don't talk on the phone as much as I used to. And I can't say that I fully miss it, but it has changed.
I
There's
used
a
to talk
certain
for
amount.
hours. When you think about it, like all that time on having phone calls. I mean, it's like, who could talk for hours on end? But
I will say there are certain friends of mine that I don't talk to them that often. They are those friends that we can go ages and ages, and then when we do get on the phone, it's like no time has passed. But one of the reasons I don't talk to them that often is because when we do talk, we talk, and there
Yes.
and so there are those people that that are just like near and dear to me, and I love them. And one of the reasons we don't talk that often is because I know I need a chunk of time, and that has, and I'm sure they feel the same way about getting on the phone with me. They're like, "Oh, I'm going to need some time."
This is going to be a conversation.
Well, that's why you schedule one of those when you can all block out the time to do it.
Yes, absolutely.
That's why I'd rather get together in person, because then I can dedicate a little bit more time. But like, how do you go ahead and set that up? I got to still contact you to set that up.
Yeah.
Well, we all got together.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
It's true. So many of my friends are no longer local for me. We've all kind of scattered out to the winds, and so that requires the phone call, and but I love a good phone call. I'll just
Oh,
say.
I do too.
But I do have to have the bandwidth for it.
Now, do you do phone calls, Yvonne, or do you do Zoom?
Oh, no, I'd much rather have a phone call. It's one of the reasons I like Clubhouse, is because sitting and having to look in the camera, I'm maybe perhaps a little ADHD and need to move my body sometimes, and walk around and do other things when I'm talking to them. And it doesn't mean I'm not paying attention. It actually helps me focus.
I agree. I should take a video recording of me. I pace. If I'm on the phone, I can pace back and forth on a phone conversation. God knows I put on miles on my watch when I'm on a phone call.
There you go, Donna. Getting them
my
steps
11
in.
minutes. My 11 minutes.
There was something you said earlier, Kat, that made me remember. It was about having bandwidth and loving the peopling, but then there's times when you just don't want to do it. I will say, like, we host rooms in Clubhouse, and there are days when I'm just like, oh, I got to open the room. And every single time, by the time, once we're in that room and we're talking, I leave that room and I've got more energy than I did when I came in,
I agree.
because the conversations are so rich and the connections are so rich. And same thing with, getting on a podcast interview. I mean, that's my favorite part of podcasting, is this. And that's when I really do want to be on camera on a Zoom call with people. And it's a very focused moment in time on a particular topic with a person and learning about them. And that is a different kind of connection, it
reinvigorates you a little bit, when you have that uplifting conversation. And I felt that way with, I have an interview and I'm just like, oh, I don't want to do this today. And then you get into it and you're like, that was the best ever. So and I'm like that with Clubhouse too, having a great conversation. I'm like, oh, I got to do Clubhouse. Oh, that was a great conversation. I feel so much better. So
every time we do Salty Sisters, I love it. Can I tell our behind the scenes before we started today? Kat
Sure.
Kat came in
Yeah.
and she'd been going since 6:30 this morning, and she came in and tech was kind of weird, and I could see she was, it was all she was drawn and like looking super hot, stressed, and all of a sudden she's doing something, and then she looks up and I'm going.
She did.
And,
She
I
did.
I did that. I did that.
And then it just went, oh, I was like, okay, it's Yvonne. It's all good.
I do have to say, Linda and I have that same kind of rejuvenation, I will call it, after we get together to record or have our podcasting room where we've actually, our clubhouse room, where we've actually considered it part of our self-care each week is to get together and just have a conversation, which sometimes this entrepreneurial adventure, we can have so much solo and alone time that we really need those times of connecting with other humans to
And
get us.
you're moms to littles too. So much of your time is spent with your little one. And
Yeah.
you need that connection to somebody who, and frankly, maybe not your husband, right? Somebody who is not connected to that whole thing. It's important to have that connection that feeds that other part of you.
Yeah.
When my saving grace, when my daughter was about just shy of a year, I had joined a mommy and me kind of thing through our synagogue, and I met my two closest girlfriends. We all three of us had girls, only children. And so the three of us were like, we would get together all the time, and we didn't have the internet. We didn't have social media. We didn't have Zoom. So it was in person or the phone. But it was, it was mental health for, to be able to connect with someone and go through that. And so what we would do is we would bring the kids all together and we'd have lunch and let the kids play so that we could have that kind of connection. It's hard when Linda's on the opposite side of the world to do that, granted. But that's the difference of the reach that we have today, versus, people who are local,
Oh my goodness. How amazing is it that we have this way of communicating? Here we are via live stream connecting across the country at this point. And if Carrie was here, across the world, right? And I have my really good friend Lou, who's in the Philippines, and here's this technology. I also was so grateful for it during the COVID lockdown, to be able to have the connection. My kids were able to do virtual school, and I know it wasn't ideal, but they had that available to them. And for good or bad, they had video games and chat rooms to connect with their friends virtually during a time. Can you imagine if it had happened when we were growing up, the isolation that would have been completely crippling without those connections? It would have been incredible. And just I'm really grateful for the technology that we have. Mixed feelings about it, but mostly really grateful.
Is there a connection in your business that you feel like you're most grateful for, whether it's a person or a technology tool? Is there something that you're like, I could not do my business without this?
Well, Zoom, I will say, because that Zoom is the platform that I use to conduct interviews for the podcast, and it's how I meet people. So that is technology that I'm super grateful for. And Clubhouse has been the other platform that I'm really grateful for, because I wouldn't know any of you were it not for Clubhouse having also been available to us during the pandemic. It started off as a place for me to go and do research and development to see what other people in midlife were struggling with. And it was what a boon, what a fortunate thing. got into Clubhouse and there were loads of rooms of midlife women talking about midlife women issues, and it was amazing. And, at first it was also a great way, once I got the courage up to actually contribute to those conversations in those rooms and people knew I had a podcast, I could see after I'd been in Clubhouse, I could see an uptick in downloads for the podcast, which was an incredible growth for the podcast, a growth time. That slowed and I stopped meeting as many new people. But what ended up happening because I stayed in Clubhouse is those relationships that I had formed deepened. And that's what happened with you guys. Yeah. And I love Clubhouse too, because it's an audio only platform. Again, I can walk around my house. I can get on my balance board and just wiggle around on my balance board during a Clubhouse room or any number of things. But what I really love about it is having a topic. It's a focused conversation. There's usually a topic driven thing happening. And when somebody new pops in and you've never met them before and they have something to contribute on a conversation and that's the connection. Whereas if I were to go to their Instagram feed or their Facebook feed or their LinkedIn feed, all I'm going to see is what they've curated, what they want me to see. And when I go into Clubhouse and they pop into a conversation and I can hear them responding, thinking on the fly, I really get a sense of who they are and whether or not they're my flavor instantly. And I love that.
Absolutely. I just wanted to highlight a comment. Ellen said, listening to you all talking about your Clubhouse virtual conversations, etc., are your 21st century telephone calls.
It's true. They're like, what they used to call it, the party line? Something like that.
Right.
Yeah. Back in the day.
The difference about Clubhouse, Ellen is a dear friend of mine, and I started talking to her about Clubhouse today. The difference about Clubhouse, though, is it's 24/7, and you could talk about any topic and find information on anything you can ever imagine. I thought originally it was just all about business. And, I saw there was sleep apnea and there was like anything you have a problem with, you could find it. And that's what makes it such a plethora of information, and a wealth of information. So, yeah.
Yeah. There's a great podcasting community that Kat and I go into every like Monday. I don't know if you're in there every Monday through Friday, Kat. I try to pop in there every day, Monday through Friday. Mark Ronick runs that room, and it is a great community in and of itself. It's also a great source of information. I always learn something. It always has me thinking about my podcast and how I can improve it. And what an incredible thing to have available to us.
I love all the things that help us keep connected. And sometimes it can be overwhelming a little bit and you have to kind of back off because it's exhausting. I'm going to tell you, it's exhausting.
Truth.
To
Are you going to tell us
connecting on the phone.
Are you going to tell us that? It is.
And all of these people know that. But, if you're an entrepreneur and, it's the first thing that we think about is being I'll be an entrepreneur. And you think entrepreneur is this solo journey, like flying around the world in a plane by yourself or, going on the ocean and going from one continent to another. And it's not. You have to connect. I believe. Can you be an entrepreneur and not connect?
No. So that is something I actually struggle with because I don't know about you guys. I'm an introverted extrovert. And it's hilarious to me that I love Clubhouse. Like it's not naturally something that I would have thought I would have loved as much as I do. Because let's say, for instance, if you're an entrepreneur and you go to a conference and it's in person and there's all these people, I am completely overwhelmed in a situation like that, looking around the space and going, I don't know how to approach anybody in this situation. There's something about the guided topics of Clubhouse that gives me something to latch onto, I guess. And I can just go in and listen on the days when I'm not as peoply, or I can participate on the days when I feel so moved,
I think it depends on the situation. And it's a very funny story how I met my friend Ellen, probably about 13, 14 years ago. We are both in the same industry, in promotional products and branded products. And we were at a conference and I saw her chatting away at the other side of the breakfast banquet room. And like a few minutes later, I found myself next to her on the line getting breakfast. And I looked at her and I turned to her and I said, "You look like somebody I could be friends with." And that talk about talking to somebody that you don't know, and that was just the beginning of our friendship. But, so having that human factor, certainly does have there's a need. I find there is a need for it definitely in our lives, but the fact that we have had access to all of these technologies, I'll never forget the first time I was part of another organization and, everybody couldn't go to any of the meetings and it was a large organization. I said, well, you may need to start doing things virtually. And it was like I said, I was talking a foreign language. It was like, what do you mean virtual? I said, well, I know that they have meetings on Zoom and everything. And it was like, really, when you think about it, 4 years ago, it wasn't that long ago. And look what has happened to our entire world because of it. And as horrible as it was, there's so many positive. We never all would have met had it not been for the pandemic.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
That's true.
So
amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
That makes me think of this, and Kim had asked, reminded me to share this, but it reminds me of Kim because she says all the time that she is a collector of people, building relationships all the time because she just loves people. So I think that's what this can be seen as today, as a collection of some of the people that she is loved on quite a bit. And I think this might be a really good time to, I don't know if she wants to come back up and join us, but pull her on up so we can get to our halftime show, because she has a little surprise to love on us just a little bit more today while we take a short break and go back down into the green room. But Kim, take it away, because you've been busy in the green room trying to get things squared away.
I have, and technology's not been my friend. I'll just say that out loud. So we are going to go to the halftime show, and hopefully Plan Q will work, because we've already done A, B, C, D, E, and F. So now we're to Q. We're going to try really hard. So it's too cool not to share. So got to get it out there.
All right. So how do you want us to do this? Do you want us to go with you guys?
I was going to say, I'll send y'all to the green room. And Adam, are you going to still hang out with me for the halftime show?
I mean, unless you're kicking me out.
No. I think you all were kicking me out. Was that what it was happening?
No, of course I'm going to stay here and do the halftime show with you. Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. No, we have a better halftime show than just that. Don't worry.
Let's pray the video works, because let's not do that. We are a Peppy and Pony show around here, but let's not be one tonight. Let's play the video if we can.
Yes. All right. Well, then we'll see you after.
It's about 5-ish minutes. So,
all right.
I'll start bringing everyone. People are going to the green room already. I was gonna say I'll start bringing people to the green room, but I don't have to.
I think there's some button pushers amongst us.
Yes, I think so too.
Okay, we're gonna try this, Adam, and
All
I
right.
am hoping that it will work. So here we go. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. All right. We will, I'm sure the video will continue in just a moment. There seems to be a little bit of a internet connection issue. We're back.
don't even know if I'm here anymore. Like, I'm
You
so
are.
sorry.
Oh, all right. That was a great video, Kim.
Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry for all the tech issues, but that was so exciting to highlight everybody.
Yes, definitely. And I'm sure the halftime video show will be somewhere for replay as well. So people will be able to watch it over and over again.
Yeah.
So
we need to introduce our next leaders of the roundtable, because I'm actually going back to the green room because I keep like getting wonky and I don't want to be wonky on here.
Oh, well, we love you wonky or not. So we will be happy to have you, whatever you want to do. But we are going to introduce the next leaders of this roundtable, which are Jill Olish, who is the founder of Mama Outspoken and the executive leader at My Sexy Business, and Yvonne Marchese, who is the president of the Age Agitators Club. So we are so excited to have them lead this next part of the roundtable discussion. I am going to bring them up to stage, and then we will bring everybody else back up as well. All right. Welcome.
Hello again.
Great to see you both. So let me go ahead and bring everybody else up.
Welcome back.
Yay.
Is this everybody?
Right. I think so.
All right.
Right?
Yeah, I think so. Well, Jill, did you have something cooking in your brain to launch us off?
I do. And I was getting antsy trying not to ask it earlier. So it might be a little fun one to start with. But I was wondering, what was something surprising that you learned about having to make connections, like we've been talking about, for your business? Both.
I'll go. I'm surprised at how much I actually like making connections. I am a connector, and I don't think I realized that about myself until I started the podcast. I mean, the photography business, I always loved connecting with my photography clients in the middle of a session and pre-planning calls and those things like that. But there has been something extra special about making connections for the podcast, for building the podcast audience. I've enjoyed, I will say social media is sometimes it's a love-hate thing, but sometimes I really do enjoy, like, whoever knew that I do videos. There's a reason I went into podcasting, and that is that I was not on camera. And I was not comfortable with being on camera. Never part of the plan. And I hadn't gone live. I never did live streams. I never did anything like that. And who knew I was going to like it? Who knew I was going to end up doing Salty Sisters with the freaking fabulous Cat Corchado and having such a good time doing it, and making those connections. I didn't know how much I was going to enjoy it. That's what surprised me. Anybody else?
I touched upon this earlier about the difference of living in New York and then moving to Dallas and not knowing a soul, and forced into a situation that if I was going to meet anybody, I'd have to go and network and meet them. And the first thing I thought of when first networking group I ever went to, I was looking around the room and everybody knew everybody, and I'm standing there and I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to introduce anybody to anybody when I don't know a soul? And so that's how that was the impetus of how I started my business, was when I would go to this networking group and I'd meet and have one-on-ones and coffee with people, and let them know a little bit about me, and I could find out about them. And that's how my whole mental Rolodex started getting developed because I'd meet with all these people, to the point where literally when I moved to Dallas, I did not know anyone. Like, and coming from, leaving my family, leaving my career, it was like, I was ready for a change, but that was a huge change. And to the point where I had won several times Networker of the Year through other organizations because I made it part of one of my marketing arms. That's how I would market myself and market other people. To one point, someone said to me, "Oh, you should really go into, that you could have a whole business introducing people to each other." And, what I was thinking about it was like, I like to do this just because I love connecting people. I couldn't think of making it a profession, but there are professional organizations and people who do that. So, that was my biggest surprise of how it all just happened. It just happened. It wasn't planned.
I think my biggest surprise has been that I found a way to work on my own. Now I don't mean like I work by myself, but that I don't need to have that 9-to-5 job, that I can earn a living outside of the conventional corporate job. And when I left corporate in 2019, I didn't really know what I was going to. I thought at that time that the advertising on my podcast was going to support me and I was going to become this huge international podcaster. And it did not work out that way. I have my podcast. I'm very happy with it. And I've gotten to speak to amazing people on it. It did not earn me the income that I thought it would and that I had in my mind. So I had to find other ways to earn an income. And I will say I'm very grateful for that journey. And if it wasn't for other aspects, I don't think I would have made my way into the My Sexy Business community and met everybody here. So I'm very grateful for all of the twists and turns that it took. And people do often ask me, do I regret leaving corporate? And I don't. For as challenging as it has been, I know I made the right decision. I'm very happy sort of setting my own, I don't want to say my own agenda, but my own direction. And I get a really great balance of doing things for My Sexy Business and working on my personal stuff for Call Me Adam. And I love the balance and I'm grateful for this road that I'm on.
I love that answer, Adam. It's funny how you're just making me think of a connection, which is that very often when the things happen in our life that are disappointing in some way or hard, those things actually can be the things that launch us into what's next for us. And that has certainly been true for me. A layoff from a job in 2008 is what pushed me to be and made me even realize I wanted to become a photographer, and a second layoff later on with the reorganization of a small company I was working for was the push that I needed to go full time as a photographer. I had taken that job thinking it was going to be part time because I was like, I feel like I'm almost ready to go full time as a photographer, but maybe not yet. I don't know. Maybe can I do it? And the job that I had taken ended up being full time for sure. And then things happened in the company and I got let go. And I was like, okay, this is it. This is the moment. And, you know, these are the things that, you know, if you lean into it, I think, and get curious about what's available, what the lesson is in there for you, that is a connection to be had.
I think though that sometimes when you're going through it, especially when I was younger going through it, I didn't realize it at the time how profound a lot of it was. So when I was working at Calvin Klein and I left there to go to Ferragamo, I was revamping the women's division, and I contacted my contacts that I worked with in management from retail stores to ask them to come to Ferragamo and take a look at what we were doing. So it was because of those connections that they came to Ferragamo. And then when I started my own children's clothing company, I contacted them again because a lot of the senior management were over kids and designer women. Who would have thought? Okay. And so because of those connections, they came to look at the children's clothing line and gave me a shot to get me into, you know, Bloomingdale's and Neiman Marcus and things like that. And so the point I'm making is that it seemed like a natural progression, and it was all done, it wasn't calculated. It was just like the next thing to do. And now looking back, I'm thinking like, well, that was lucky, you know. That's what I was trying to say, is sometimes, especially when you're younger and you're just first going through these steps of putting one foot in front of the other, you don't realize how profound some of these connections could be in your life. And that's why I'm such a big proponent of maintaining them. You know?
Yeah. And now you're making me think too about, you know, hindsight is 2020. You can only sometimes look back over the course of time and go, oh, that led to that, led to that, led to that. And you don't know that that's all happening when it's happening. You just have to trust and keep going and keep getting up and cleaning your skinned knees and, you know, putting a Band-Aid on and keep going. But then you can look back afterwards and go, I see how that fit in.
I think one of the most surprising things for me about connection is reconnecting with myself, because as an entrepreneur, we don't think about us, we think about our business. And if there is no us, there is no business. So reconnecting to myself, as far as realizing that, you know, when someone says, oh, do you have a team? And I say, yeah, my team is me, myself, and I. And realizing that I can only do so much. And before I get to that exhaustion phase, is to be able to pull back, only do what's necessary, and be able to take care of me. So reconnecting to myself as an entrepreneur has been probably the most surprising thing for me.
I think that's a great point, Kat, because I feel like I've had to do that over the years, because sometimes I do feel like I get to a point where sometimes I say, do I really want to continue doing the interviews? Do I really want to continue doing all of this work? Wouldn't it sort of be nice just to, after work, just to be and not have anything else to do and not have to get up early to get things done? And then I go to stop and something always pulls me back. I'm like, oh, look, so-and-so's doing something and I want to try to get an interview with them. And then I also think, I mean, I do love it. So I think the love outweighs the, I want to stop and I've been able to slow down because I limit myself to the amount of interviews I take on, but I always have that conversation with myself. And I feel like that's a reconnecting to myself.
I like to say, take a pause. You're pausing. And I think part of that reconnection is, you know, my Catitude Day, where I don't allow anything to happen. That's part of that reconnection, because I think it's necessary. For me, it is. Eventually, if you rev a motor too much, it's just going to go click, 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 and then you're done. So you have to be able to give that motor, your heart, your body, a chance to revive itself. Give it the rest it needs, give it the time that your brain needs to not be on all the time. So I think that's important.
Carrie talks about taking a pause, not stopping. It's just a pause, and then you go back to it.
Mm-hmm.
What you were saying, Yvonne, was something that I learned that was surprising. Was I don't know if I had the history of figuring out how things all connected in other jobs to look back at. But now recognizing as I'm learning what all the steps I need to do, how everything is connected, and making the connections myself without someone to tell me this is how you do it is the most surprising. And I get so excited. I'm like, oh, wait, that's how that's connected.
Mm-hmm.
But the biggest connection that surprised me is what you were saying, Kat, is how my calendar for myself and how I need to treat my body and my mental health and me as a whole is connected to my output for home, for me as a human, for work, for everything. So I can only be as good as I can make myself by taking care of me first. So how that's connected to everything I do outside of taking care of me was another big surprise. And the ways that I can keep doing, like Kim says, making a business that doesn't own me, but that I own instead. So it's, fun with that.
It is a process to figure that out, isn't it? It's, as I always tell you this, Jill, but you are my hero because you are doing what you're doing with a little one. And I can't even imagine having done that and I look back now and I'm like, well, I was working a full-time job and I did take on a photography, and I was doing side gigs. So I guess in a way I was, but I certainly did not see myself as an entrepreneur at that point. That was somebody else. That was for somebody else. But the balancing that needs to happen and is never going to be complete. You're never going to have full balance, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just always aiming for it. I think that is the key. Like I still have a high schooler. I still have a kid at home, and that is important to me to be available, to be his mom, to drive him places when he needs to go, to go to track meets, to do those things. That is why I even wanted to become a photographer in the first place. Why I wanted to do a podcast is to have that control over my schedule. But what it also does is it limits me from having the bandwidth to do all the things that I feel like I should be doing in my business right now to make it grow. And I just have to kind of go, well, this is the time and space I'm in right now. And
take advantage of that. I have to tell you, because with the blink of an eye, they're out of the house. So
yes.
For someone who went through that and worked probably too much, I think the amount, however much you can do in whatever capacity, if it's either working or as being a mother, you're gonna like this. And Jill, forget it. It's like, go like this in their 30s.
Yeah, blink.
Seriously,
you blink and it's over. It's like,
it's over.
What?
So my only observation of myself and only words of wisdom I can impart on people who are going through this now is enjoy being a mother, and because what you put in is what you'll get out. And there'll be plenty of time when they're out of the house that you can throw yourself into it. So, just saying.
Can I ask a question? Do you feel like, this for everybody, do you feel like entrepreneurship has given you the ability to have more of a connection with your family? For as much work as we put in and for all of the things that we're in between Mastermind, Groundwork Brigade, and everything else, do you still feel like entrepreneurship has given you more time with your family than, say, if you had a corporate job?
Yes. And maybe because of the way I'm doing it, because I can't think, because I constantly go back and remind myself, well, the reason I'm not in a job is because I want to have that control over my time. And yet, it's not that I work less, right? It is not that I work less. It's that I can choose when I'm going to work. And sometimes I do work on a weekend. And that leaves me free to cut out early on a Tuesday and get to a track meet, So there are trade-offs that have that. And, it's interesting because it's given me something to talk to my kids about. I tell them, hey, I just published a book, right? And I had an author event coming up at the library, and I wanted to do something to give people who came to the event. So I created some little bookmarks, and I'm showing my kids, look, I made a bookmark, and they see me struggle. They, I'm like, oh, I had to file sales tax today. I don't like doing that. That I do share with them a little bit of my behind the scenes and what I'm doing. And hopefully that shows them, they see me putting myself out there, and hopefully that will give them permission to take chances and put themselves out there when their time comes.
I can't say right now. It's hard because I'm still working part-time outside the home, but I can say I've started taking certain days off, which is given, my husband has Mondays off like I do, and we've started going for walks in the morning together. So it's starting to get there. I'm still on the fence. I think it's going to get there. I just have to be patient.
It definitely will get there, Kat.
Thank you, Adam.
For me, it was the only choice that I felt that I had in the beginning, because there was no way that I wanted to put my 3-month-old son into daycare. So I needed something where I could work from home and take care of him because of all the different reasons. But now, as he's grown up and he is in daycare for a good chunk of the day, and I get my dedicated work time for that chunk also, it's allowed us to build an incredible bond for when he gets home and we spend that time outside, either before or after. The downside is my husband still works 6 days a week most of the year. So there's a little bit less on that, but we still have the flexibility of doing things like date night. And we're able to, I don't have to work on Wednesday nights, and that's our date night. We keep it, a comfortable day of the week. So we get to have our time. And then weekends are all about exploring. And unless we do both have work, usually it's on Saturdays. So it works out well. I'll have things like our Sticky Note Time accountability group on a Saturday morning, and he's got work. So we're both involved in it. And my son is a huge part of my business, both with My Sexy Business and Mama Outspoken. I mean, Mama Outspoken was built because of him and I. So it will always keep, I think, us as combined as family and entrepreneurship.
I love that.
I think it's hard. I have a child, but he's out of the house. I do have a 4-legged fur baby, which is demanding. but a child requires a lot of attention. So, for you guys that are carrying the torch, still raising kids, it's like, I salute you.
100% agree. I don't have kids. I don't have a fur baby. So I don't have that, I don't know what to call it. I was going to say distraction, but that doesn't sound like the right term.
It's a pull.
Yeah.
It's an internal pull, because no matter what you do, you're going to feel guilty about something. And that's just the way it is.
True.
It's like if you're spending time with your child, you're thinking about all the things from work that you're not getting done. And then when you're working, you're thinking about, I wish I could be spending more time with my child. So it is the plight. It is the plight of motherhood. And I think that, I'm watching Yvonne, I'm watching Jill, and I didn't have anybody to watch when I was going through it. It was just a trial and error. This is, you're thrown in a situation. But I think you guys are doing an amazing job of balancing both. So kudos and hats off to you both.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Adam, what about yourself? Whether or not you have kids, you have relationships in your life that are close and dear. How has entrepreneurship impacted those relationships for you?
I will say that I definitely scaled back maybe a little bit. There are certain things I choose not to go to, because depending on how many times I've been on something Zoom related during the week, it gets to a point where it's like, okay, I need a break. And, I mean, I'm in a relationship, so I do want to spend time with Angelo as much as I can. And I think that's why at the beginning, when we first started dating, I was okay, and living together, I was okay with when he went to bed, I did my work. But then it got to a point where it's like, okay, I want to spend more time with him, so I could stop my work, I can get into bed, I can watch TV, I can relax, and it's a balance. And I just know I try to keep my weekends free. I know I haven't gone to sticky note time accountability as often as I was. And part of that is because I feel like so much is happening during the week that I need that recharge for myself. And I also want to say to myself, well, that's my time with Angelo, because he works a regular corporate job and he has the weekends off. That's really the only time we're going to really get together, because during the week I do have so many commitments. So I try to keep my weekends as free as possible to do things with him and make a point of that. So I guess I feel the same thing.
Yeah, what I'm hearing, Adam, and what you're saying is you're drawing boundaries that are allowing you to connect with yourself, which is what Kat was talking about, right? And I don't know if anybody else has experienced this. What is it? The Pomodoro. There's a rule that as much time as you have is how long a task is actually going to take. So there's the days when I know I'm going to have to cut out early, and knowing that I'm cutting out early gets me super focused. And those probably are my more productive days than the days when I'm like, oh, look at this. I don't have any interviews scheduled. I don't have any photo sessions. Kim just put in the comments, Parkinson's law. Thank you very much. And, and it's just like my mind pinballs, and there's something to be said for those days too, though. I will say those may be my rabbit hole days, but those are also the days when my mind has a little more leisure to think about where I'm going, where I might want to go next with things, to maybe listen to somebody's podcast that I didn't have time to listen to on another day, different things like that. So I think there's value in both of those things.
I think there's huge value in it. When I have Sunday off, Monday, I am like on it. I'm getting stuff done. I'm taking names. I'm getting all the jobs done. And then I look back and I go, whoa, look what I just did. But I think that if I hadn't started doing that, I would feel very unmotivated because I'm tired. So I think taking that time off is giving me back time for me so I can take that time, that energy, and put it towards my business.
You know, this particular week, I think I've shared with you that Dave was out of town, and so I took advantage of, you know, staying up and working instead of spending time with him. And I really knocked out a lot of things to the point where I'm like, I'm not in a state of panic now, because there's something that Kim always talks about is like, you know, batching things. And so that's my big focus now, because I'm trying to create that space where we can go away for a weekend maybe, or I can get, you know, I can connect with Dave, because he's very much like me. He'll work, you know, he'll work around the clock too. And we just said it to ourselves the other night, like, we have to cut it off. You know, that's it. It's like noon on Saturday. That's it for the weekend or whatever day it is. And I feel that being an entrepreneur, you can control that, even if it's during the week, obviously. But when I was working in corporate America, you know, I worked as if it was my own company. But the thing was, I still had to report to someone. I still had to prove myself to someone. So my work ethic is the same. It's just now I don't have that extra group of people that I need to worry about. And it's really, you know, putting more effort into getting what I have to get done. And then so I could take care of myself and have some fun time as well. And it's that balance that I'm working towards. I'll let you know when it happens.
We've all said, well, a lot of us have brought up the word balance, but it's a lot more, I think, harmony, because I don't know if it can really be balance, and it's the harmony of how things flow. But I love that we've made all these distinctions on all of the connections that we've been making and learning how to make, both on the back ends of our business and on the forefronts with other people. But yeah, we are at the time.
We are. It's been a fabulous conversation. I loved being here with all of you. Kim and Carrie, even though you're not here with us on the screen at the moment, I know that you guys have created this space for us to come together. And I just want to acknowledge that and thank you.
Mm-hmm. We're so happy to have had this event tonight, and for everyone being able to be on stage with us to speak, all of you who are listening in and those who listen in on the replay and watch. We are so grateful for your support and making connections with us as well.
Absolutely. And I also want to thank Adam and Jill for all your behind the scenes button pushing and things that have happened to make us come together tonight.
To make those connections on those buttons. So that tonight.
Right.
It is our pleasure. And we can't wait to see everybody in July for the next Fierce Entrepreneur Summit. And I think it's time to go to the after party.
I think so. And I guess she'll say as Kim does, because I'm sure she's screaming it from the green room right now.
Yes.
Love you all.
Love y'all.
Bye. Bye.